Hi, I'm Vadd, and this month of May, not everything I invested time in became a full video. And sometimes I end my stream and close my recording, and then I think of some new takes. Today, here and now, I'm covering some of those thoughts and the games that just didn't make it out. One title I've been watching closely is called As We Descend. It's still in early access, so we're not ready to really dive in too deep or judge it too harshly, but it's a strategy roguelike deck builder, which by genre doesn't mean a whole lot at this point. In the last year, I feel like that's every other game, but it's set in this collapsing post-apocalyptical world where humanity is just trying to survive from the inside of this major city. And it has a unique hook here, as the core idea is not just build a deck and fight monsters. It's kind of split between two connected layers: what happens out in your expeditions and what happens back inside of the city. It's not a city builder, but instead there's this kind of broader strategy that feels more non-combat-y than most deck builders, as there's this subtle layer where we're not just picking cards and upgrades, but we're also kind of managing the people of the city and the politics and the resources and the factions and that long-term survival. And I like the way it was described was a dual layered deck building, because your choices matter in battle in the city. It is still a deck battler, so it's combat and cards, and it's kind of tactical. And instead of controlling one hero, you have a little squad of heroes. I like it. I think it's got a lot of good things going for it. I don't know if I love it. I think ultimately it's in a good place as an early access title, as right now I think the core mechanics are there. And I think the developers have been pretty clear saying, hey, there is a full version planned. We're actively working on it. We're adding more things. We're refining things. We're balancing. We're bug fixing. And I think this is the right game to have in early access. So we spent some time in that in this May, but I'm not sure, when it's going to be done and fully cooked and we come back to it. It might be a few years. You never know. But ultimately, it's a dense little tactical deck builder with a strong atmosphere and kind of a heavy strategy wrapped around it. But that's my experience here in early access. The game's not done yet, so we'll see how it turns out later on. I'm really not kidding when I said every game and their mama thinks they need to be a card game. I spent some time this month in Cardboard Town. It's a city building card game that turns you into this kind of tabletop roguelike urban planner. I found it surprisingly fun and surprisingly frustrating. Each turn you get a handful of options, and each card represents a possible decision. You build roads, you finish a quest, you get an upgrade, you build a structure. And it has this mix of coziness with this constant pressure. Like visually, at a glance, it has this like hand-drawn cardboard tabletop look. It makes the city feel small and cute and toy-like, but mechanically, like, this is not a relaxing game, as every card here is like affecting my city's balance in a major way. And man, I get it. Like, the basic loop is easy to understand. You draw your cards, you play your cards, you expand your town. That's it. But I almost felt like Cardboard Town was more of a puzzle feel than a city builder or a card game or even a tactical game. It just felt like a lot of pressure. And most of the time, the more I figured out about the game, the more I was just frustrated going, I know what I want to build and I can't build it because it's not really a city build. Or I know what card I need to draw, but I need to get through all my cards because it's in my Discord bio. And I got really frustrated the deeper I went, not because it's a bad game, but because I felt like I was so limited in what I wanted to do. But that's kind of the nature of this game. You are limited to the cards you draw, the cards in your hand, the cards in your deck, and what you can build. I think on one hand, Cardboard Town has this magic of it kind of shrinks the city builder fantasy into a little quick decision game, because there's not a huge map. You're not dealing with like zoning or traffic or, those deep infrastructural chains, but it has this feeling of being a mayor of a messy, plot of land with a handful of cards and just not enough time or options to solve everything. On some levels, this made it maybe a little more approachable than, a more complex or standardized city simulator, but also a lot more restrictive. This month had me sink a shocking amount of time in the loop. This is a super grindy, strange little clever bend of, you guessed it, roguelike deck building, auto battling RPG base building. You start naming genres and it kind of seems to fit into one of them. Might even be a narrative game. You never know. The basic premise is your hero walks around a loop. He just automatically walks around it. You don't control the direction, the speed, nothing. He just walks around the loop. And your job here is to rebuild the world. That's right. You're saving the world one hero at a time, one building at a time, one item at a time. You get these cards to create terrain that builds enemies, buildings, hazards, resources, opportunities, and your hero just keeps walking. He just keeps going around the loop. So there's this complex yet simple balance of everything you place is also helping you but hurting you at the same time. You start placing enemy generating tiles, and now your hero has more monsters to fight and farm, which is good because they drop loot, but it's also bad because they might kill your hero. So you have this little balance of, do I play this card and make it more challenging for my hero, or has he grown strong enough to do that, or is this opportunity too risky? And there's this subtle RPG layer of loot and character growth, because your hero just fights the enemies, but you actively decide what gear to equip. And it's so simple, right? It's just basic like weapon, ring, shield, you know, helmet, boots, pants, whatever, right? And over time, you're making these small judgments, chasing these bigger numbers, and this small stream of upgrades all of a sudden creates this momentum, and your loop hero is slaying the loop. They're getting it done, and then there's a boss. You get through your loop, and there's actually a survivor's camp that you're actually upgrading with resources you got from your loop. I am super charmed by this game. I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know if this is the early days in a honeymoon phase, or if this is more along the lines of, this game speaks to me as a player for a specific reason, but it lacks broad appeal. As visually, it's not impressive. I don't think it needs to be, but the hardest thing for me on this is it's just not Steam Deck compatible. I absolutely, consistently, oftentimes will be looking at that Steam Deck compatibility to decide, am I playing this game or not? And if it was Steam Deck compatible, I probably would have beat it 2 or 3 times by now, but it's not. So it takes up dedicated time and space off my Steam Deck time, and when I have my big rig out, and it's competing with a different set of games then that I wish it wasn't, that I'm going to play on my main machine and not on my handheld. So I really hope it gets Steam Deck support. There's no rumbles about that I've seen, but maybe I'm wrong, maybe it will. I like it, but I don't know over a long enough period of time if I'm going to feel the same. This month also had me diving into Thick as Thieves. I did a full review on this one, as it's not an early access game. This is the full release, and I kind of harped on it in my review for one simple big giant flaw. There's only 2 levels. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a stealth first-person action game. It's a heist game, but there's only 2 levels. So once you've kind of played the levels a few times, it kind of feels a little bit more repetitive than it should, because frankly, it just has so many things that work for it that are really well done. You're trying to become this member of the Thieves Guild. You're sneaking through guarded locations, stealing valuables, uncovering secrets. You know, the structure is kind of mission-based. You take a contract to go raid the level to get some guarded item. It's time-based, so you don't have a limited time just to break the level. Once you get those items, the clock starts ticking, and your portal to escape is there, because this actually takes place in a magical, you know, pre-industrial or early technological Scottish city from the 1910s, I think, Kilcarn, I think it was called. And it's a fun little universe it's built into. It has this fun setting, this fun atmosphere, and I think the stealth design is based on a lot of observations and shadows and kind of the tools you have it can use, and there's just so many good things going for it. And I've only been talking about solo play. You can play it co-op. It's a 2-player adventure as well. You could both be in a level, you and your bestest friend. And if you have 2 friends, I guess you got to pick a favorite and just be tearing it up. I mean, it is a cool little game, and there's only 2 levels. There's 2 levels, 2 characters. That's it. It's not early access. The developers have not yet said, hey, here's our future roadmap. And I'm 100% okay with them not doing that. I don't feel like games need a roadmap. I'm okay if this is the entirety of the game forever, but I want more from it. And that's on me, not on the game, because everything it has, it offers to its fullest. I still want more. I think there's things it can improve on, and I talked a lot more in depth about that view, which, if you're still on the fence, is worth checking out. Ultimately, I think it's a good game. It's fairly priced for what it's offering, and I'm really hopeful and optimistic even that we're going to find ourselves back in this land, in this world, exploring more. This month of May has seen my biggest push through the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which is the complete trilogy of Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, and Mass Effect 3. If you're not familiar with Mass Effect, it's a science fiction universe. We follow Commander Shepard. He's a human soldier that over a very short period of time becomes maybe the galaxy's most important and historic figure, as he is right in the middle of just universe-changing events every other mission. Across all 3 games, because it's this Legendary Edition, I can import my character from the first game to the second to the third, and decisions I made earlier into the first game are affecting things all the way out to the third game. As of the time of recording, I still have a little bit more to go in Mass Effect, and I'm not going to spoil anything in today's video for the main story, but I will say Mass Effect 1 felt dated. The writing is good, but something about the movement and combat, just the way we interact with the world, felt very dated. And Mass Effect 3 comparatively feels much more modern in those interactions. However, I think the quality of the writing, the characters, and the overarching narrative through all 3 games is very strong. It's funny, as I was journeying through Mass Effect 2 in the journey, I was really struggling with the pacing of things. As in Mass Effect 1, I felt like I had endless amount of time to explore side things and optional content. But in Mass Effect 2, the way it's structured is you'll do a main story mission, you'll start doing side stuff, and from that mission screen where you launch all your missions, all of a sudden you'll be forced into a main story mission. I don't fully understand the mechanic of what was forcing me into it, but it seemed like there was a mission count that I would complete, like, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, maybe 6 side missions. And all of a sudden I was like, you have to do a main story mission. You can't continue these out journeys. And Mass Effect 2 kept unloading onto me all these really interesting and exciting side characters I wanted to spend time with. However, I never quite got the balance down of figuring out how to do that, as ultimately you can only bring 2 party members in your squad, and they gave us like, I don't know, like 8, 10, or 12 dudes. Like, it felt like we had so many dudes. And again, we're not even like, maybe, you know, there's some characters who don't go on the squad, but they're always on the ship, like Joker, your pilot. He feels like a big character in that game. Or the Elusive Man. I wish we could have like tracked him down. I felt like I missed things in that game. And I feel like there's characters I didn't spend enough time with. And on one hand, in the moment I was frustrated, but looking back, Mass Effect 2 might be one of my favorite ones of the series. I think Mass Effect 3 gels with me more. But I think part of that's because it's kind of like the big finale where things that have been happening in Mass Effect 1 and 2 are coming to a conclusion, and there's definitely a satisfaction. Ultimately, I don't know where I'll end up in my final thoughts for Mass Effect, the Legendary Edition here, but I can say, you know, with absolute certainty, it's one of the strongest packages of long-form science fiction RPG story. It's got all the key story beats, the war, the loyalty, the identity, the diplomacy, impossible choices, this burden of the command. The first game builds the world, the second builds out these people, the third kind of pushes everything even further forward and tests more things. You know, I think it's got a lot of really good stuff going for it with clear conflict. You know, you've got traitors, allies, danger. You know, there's always something happening for you to go be doing. It doesn't feel overwhelming, but you definitely have options of what you're going to do. You know, I think it has a lot of just really, really impressive kind of magical moments inside of it. I very rarely go and replay a game. I really struggle with that. I'm oftentimes so happy when it's done. I'm just content. I'm like, that was a good experience. Mass Effect is one of the few games that I feel like I need to replay just to spend time with other characters and make some different choices. I don't know how I'll feel when I'm completely done with it, but Mass Effect absolutely dominated month of May. How about you? What are you playing? What are you watching? What's going on? Let's talk about all things last month in the comments. I'll see you there.